Welcome to another edition of the Varsity 4 podcast. Justin, Barney, Sponge Franklin coming to you on state championship week. A little bit later, we've had sicknesses and been out of the office and everything, so thanks for bearing with us a little later in the week. But, man, a Saturday game this week, Sponge, a little different. No Friday night football for the first time since mid-August. But the Raines Vikings headed to the ship, go down to Miami Saturday night, play hometown team, Miami Northwestern. Are you surprised at this, Sponge, or kind of this is
No, I think we saw this one coming. This was the most likely out of the matchups from last Friday night that we thought that Raines would be the team that would be going to Miami to play for a state title. Not surprised at the other two games. I think we were. I was a little surprised, but then I guess not, because when I was looking at Booker, I guess they surprised you because you were thinking, last time you saw Sarasota Booker, like you were telling us
yeah.
last week, they just didn't look as imposing or whatever. And what's weird about them is where I couldn't put my feeling on how good they were either, because like their last like 5 games, they were beating teams like 83-7 and 62-0. And so you're like, is this team good, or are they just beating bad teams? Like what's the deal? And you had the pregame festivities where the teams were jawing at each other. And it turned out to be a tight game for Raines. They finally had to face some adversity because they were actually in a 4-quarter ball game.
Yeah, and
So
that's
I think that was
been very
I think that was
unusual
good
for them
for them.
this year.
Yeah. So again, here, what do you take away from that game? Do you think that Booker was really good, or do you think they were pretty good? And then this is finally like that you know last round of the playoffs to get to the state where it's just like the game can kind of go either way, or any kind of way. You kind of get in one of those funky games where it's tight and you got to just worry about what's happening that night, because
Yeah,
those are that's what's so weird about high school football. People just don't understand. Like you play in these games and you're expecting to win, or you're thinking you're going to blow this team out, or this team's not as good, and then all of a sudden the game just gets into a different type of game, and the next thing you know, you're in it. And so now it's just like survive in advance. So, and that's what they did. Hats off to both squads. Like I said, it was a heck of a ball game, and Raines was able to outlast.
yeah. My lasting image of Sarasota Booker. I think I mentioned this last week. I know I talked to St. Augustine, Brian Braddock, and Brandon James, and I was at signing day last week. I said I just can't take Booker seriously. St. Augustine played Booker in the '05 championship game.
Yeah, yeah,
It absolutely mopped the floor with them. I think it was 31-15, but the game was over basically in the second quarter. And they upset Belglade to get there. So everybody was wanting to kind of a Belglade St. Augustine championship game. Booker pulled the upset and then just got the floor mopped with them. They had Sam Shields, who went on to play in the NFL, really good player. But I just after that game, all the smack that was talked and stuff, and Booker just got absolutely shredded. So that's been my lasting memory of Booker. And then surprisingly, this past week they came out and absolutely banged with Raines. They're up by 9 in the second quarter. And for Raines, it's really been their first bit of adversity since like that Riverside game where they had to kind of battle a little bit here and there to stay in that game in terms of the shootout back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
right.
They won by 20, but it was just a crazy game. So a little surprising to me that they had that much trouble with Booker, but fourth round of the playoffs, state semifinals, you had some festivities before the game. People were amped up, big crowd, and really it's been Raines' first true challenge in a long time since I said Riverside, and then even Bowls in week one. So their closest game of the season outside of that Bowls 32-23 win, and now it's you knew it was going to be a Miami team on the other side of the bracket for Raines, be it Central or Northwestern. Central got booted out of the playoffs for using an ineligible player, so Miami Northwestern, they crushed O'Galley. Teddy
Yeah.
Bridgewater's the head coach down there, his first season at his alma mater. So it's going to be a great game. I think when you look at the tradition and history, Raines in our area is phenomenal. Best public school team, so much NFL tradition, Pro Football Hall of Famers. But Miami Northwestern's tradition is even steeper than Raines in terms of how many guys
Right.
it's into the NFL, how many state championships it's won. So who do you lean to in this game?
Right now, like I say, looking at everything, I was breaking it down. I feel like it's gonna be a heck of a ball game, but if I'm leaning, I'm probably leaning towards Northwestern. I'm rooting for obviously the hometown boys. I'm rooting for the Raines Vikings, rooting for Duval over Dade. But if I'm picking the game, from a back perspective, non-bias, I just feel like Northwestern might have a little bit more on offense, even though when you look at statistically, TJ Cole and the receiving core is very like it's almost like mirror images
Mm-hmm.
offensively. So then you go to okay, who's got the better D? I feel like Raines has the better D line. I feel like Raines has the better get after the quarterback type deal. So like if Raines is going to win and if they're going to pull off if they're so-called upset, that defensive line is going to have to come to play for 4 quarters, and they're going to have to literally get after Strouder from Northwestern. And they're also very balanced. They run the ball well with a multitude of backs, so they're not just like one dimensional. They just throw it all over the place. Kind of like Raines. Raines has got good multi-dimension with their running game. With TJ Cole able to be that quarterback run game, also with Tadarius. So that's where they're equal. So now who the equalizer is what happens, on defense. And I feel like Raines might have a better defense because I haven't really seen obviously Northwestern's defense. I know they're going to be fast, athletic, get all over the place. But when you look at those stats, Raines is like dwarfed them on sacks at the quarterback and turnovers. They've gotten more interceptions. So in the case of, what happens if you got two equal teams, can you force some turnovers? Can you get after the quarterback? And so that's where Raines, I think, has the advantage, and that's where they better take advantage of that advantage. So,
Yep.
but I don't know because I'm worried that this is definitely going to be the best team they faced all year, and so if they're anything better than Booker, like I say, they're going to be in for a dogfight. So they're going to have to play their best game. They're going to have to play 4 quarters of football. They can't have, some of those episodes where they kind of let Bowles hang around or a Trinity hang around for a little bit, or have those errors where they're turning the ball at, like TJ Cole can't throw red zone picks,
Mm-hmm.
so those are the things that you're gonna have to play a clean game because the game is so equal in my opinion that one of those mistakes here or there will cost you. So
Yep.
if I'm leaning Northwestern, but I'm definitely rooting for the Vikings, and I definitely think they can win the game. It's not like I don't think they can just go out there and just like get the floor mopped on them, But like I say, they've got to play a clean ball game. They got to play complementary ball. They got, if offense is not doing something, defense has got to, keep them in the game, vice versa. And, special teams play here or there. I don't usually neither team has like field goal kickers, so that really doesn't come into play. But obviously, like if you got a punt, you better be able to punt well and you better protect that and all that stuff. So, like I say, it's going to be a heck of a ball game. And it's going to be a way to close it down, Saturday night, down in Miami. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, crazy. The 7:30 start time. It means it's the last official game of the FHSA football calendar in 2024, and it has been a fun run. The road to get here for both teams. We mentioned Northwestern's just romped through the playoffs. They beat Barron Collier 69-0. They beat Lely 64-12. Cypress Lake 48-0, and then O'Galley 40-0 in the state semifinals. Raines clobbered Bay 53-14. Crushed Wakulla 63-7. Bishop Kenny 44-15, and then Booker 28-23. So been more one-sided for Northwestern. They've really responded to Teddy Bridgewater. You mentioned Leon Strada, the quarterback, 2677 passing yards, 41 touchdowns. And you say, well, those are great numbers. Well, TJ Cole on the other side at Raines, 28-12 passing yards, 43 touchdowns. He's the difference in quarterbacks to me is TJ's ability to rush. 872 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. He, to me, has been the best player in the area this season. And when you look at Raines, there's so much more than TJ Cole. Tadarius Washington has been an excellent back. He's knocking on the door of 1,000 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns. Adron Walker, to me, in an area that is stacked with top receivers, he may be in that mention of maybe 1, 2, or 3 in the area. He's been that good. 767 receiving yards, and he's not an unknown entity. He was a very good player at First Coast.
Oh, yeah,
and he's
for
gone.
sure.
He's gone from 4 touchdowns at First Coast as a sophomore, 8 touchdowns at First Coast as a junior, to 16 this year at Raines. So he has been getting it done. He can win the one-on-one matchups, jump balls in the end zone. He has been good. Zion Butler has gotten it done. Caleb Lampkins has gotten done. Andreas Cox has gotten it done. Those guys, Butler's got 9 TDs, Lampkins 9 TDs, 16 for Adron, 5 for Andreas. So you've got some really good pass catchers for Raines. The ability for TJ Cole to run it. Tadarius Washington, a good running back. I think they match up very well with Miami Northwestern. The thing, to me, I lean on, and when you look at the defense of Miami Northwestern, they played that tough South Florida schedule. But I like Raines' defense. I think they've got some good guys, and I like Tony Williams. He's kind of a linebacker,
Yep.
but has become the 2 point conversion machine.
Oh
Micah
yeah.
Merritt, talked to him this week at practice. He's ready, excited for the game. 10 tackles for loss for him. Troy Butler's got it done. I love Raines' defensive line. You kind of alluded to that earlier. John
Hmm.
Simon, the big cat, has gotten it done. King Massey has had a heck of a year. And Jatarius Brown has been, from when I saw him in first game, Jatarius Brown, he has been one of my favorite players this season to watch. So I do think the game at the line of scrimmage tends to fall in the Vikings' favor.
Yeah. Was Solomon? Did he not play last week?
No, he's been injured most of the year.
Yeah. So is he out too?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
See,
he's
like
he's
that's
been gone
yeah.
more than half the
I didn't
year.
realize I didn't realize he was even hurt until last week. That was but like that's obviously they've been able to play without him. They've been able to figure plug and play, somebody else in there, and they've been able to do what they need to do offensive line wise. Yeah, the crazy part about Northwestern too, this is another similar thing with Raines is they don't have that one singular pass catcher. Like you got to like, man, they got this one guy. They literally have three guys that they threw it to as well, and they're all kind of split. They're all Division One offered. One's committed to Syracuse, couple have like Miami, Florida State, and the big guys. Like one's a sophomore who's kind of like young, an up and comer guy who's got like Colorado, SMU, those type of teams offered. So Calvin Russell is their like I guess their number one guy. He's like a 6'5" guy, so he's definitely a matchup problem for size. But they're also that same similarity of like, hey, you can't just zone in on Walker. You got to worry about Lampkins. You got to worry about all these
Yep.
guys. Similar status for Northwestern as well. You can't just key in on one guy. You got to stop them all because they can
Yep.
all go. They can all go.
They've
So
got three
like
guys with 30
it's so
touchdowns.
crazy, man.
They've got
Yeah,
three
yeah,
guys who stack up with 30 touchdowns. Darius Johnson
exactly.
has 9, Nicholas Lanier has 11, and then Russell has 11 as
Yep,
well. So those
yeah,
really
yeah.
comparable to Range's big three as well.
Yeah, no, like I say, that's why if Reigns is going to win this game, they're going to have to get a Strouder. They're going to have to make him uncomfortable. Force him to make some throws that he doesn't necessarily want to make. Try to shut their run game down as much as you can as well. And like I say, they gave it to a plethora of backs as well. They don't just their main guy is Davis, but they also have a whole bunch of guys who have a lot of carries and they've rushed for over 2,000 yards as a team total. So like I say, we're in for a heck of a ball game. It's just now it comes down to executing, playing Reigns football, and just getting it done, man.
The last time the last 3 times that Reigns has been down and played for a championship, I've been at those 3 games, and the other 2 times before that was 73 and 97, and 73 is before I was born, and 97 was before I got to the business. But the last 3 times I've been down, Duran Wiley was the coach. In 2015, they went down and held the lead on another Miami team, Booker T. Washington, going into the
Yep.
fourth quarter. They were up 23-22 in that game. And they had the most disastrous fourth quarter of any
Yeah.
game I have ever seen. They had gave up like an 80-yard touchdown pass on third. Raines had played so good defensive wise. They gave up like a 81, 91-yard touchdown on 3rd and 10 from I mean, way back. Raines would have had Northwestern would have had a punt out of the end zone. Raines would have had great field position. They throw a 90-yard touchdown on that,
Yeah.
just busting coverage. In the fourth quarter alone, they had 3 turnovers go back for touchdowns. It was a 100-yard pick six. There was, it just unbelievable. A fumble recovery for a touchdown, a fumble recovery on a punt or after a reception for a touchdown, 3 turnovers, 2 scoop and scores, and a pick six in the fourth quarter, and they end up losing 43-23. So it was the worst fourth quarter I've ever seen in a football game. So you play great for 3 quarters, and then
Yeah.
one quarter decides it. And I think with these teams being so equal, and that Miami Washington team was not a good Washington team. That
Right.
was a
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
starting like a freshman quarterback who threw 4 picks. I think Washington had five turnovers in that game, and they
Yeah,
still won that game 43-23. And you've got to play a buttoned up game. And the last two times when Raines went and won state championships, it was a slugfest both time in the fourth quarter of those games. H.J. Durham had an unbelievable scramble in the fourth quarter of that game to set up the winning points. And another one, the 27-13 win over Cocoa, Raines really pulled away late in that game with a couple scores. So you can play as good as you want for three quarters, but that fourth quarter, especially when it's an equalized game like this, is so important. I don't think coaches on either side can stress the importance enough of playing the full 48, because you've got to do that. If
yeah,
you're not going down there and playing a team that's a district runner up, just happy to be here. You're playing an elite team with 7 state championships, coached by an NFL quarterback, loaded with
yeah,
talent. You've run through the Miami, you've survived the Miami experience, and you're playing in your hometown for your backyard.
yeah,
So Raines is going to have to face all of
yeah.
that, and I think they can do it. I do think this is a coin flip game for both of these teams. I think on paper you probably look and say Miami Northwestern's the favorite. You're playing in your hometown. Um,
Right.
you've navigated that tough Miami schedule. You're 11-2. You've crushed playoff teams, and then you got Raines, the number 1 seed in Class 3A, and coming to make that long trip. And um, they haven't been down here in a while, but I do think that Raines can win this game. I don't think this is a Trinity Chaminade kind of matchup. I do think
Right.
that Raines can stay and bang in this game. So I'm going to probably pick Raines in this game, Sponge,
Yeah.
and,
No.
and
Yeah.
I'm
After talking
conflicted on it.
after this breakdown, I'm like, I'm going Reigns, baby. Let's go. Let's go Vikes. Let's go
It's tough. It's
Vikings.
tough, man. It's so tough. I think this is a coin flip game. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter of that game. Just judging, I've seen so many Range state championship games, 3 of their 5, and it's come down to the fourth quarter
Yeah.
every.
I was actually at the '97 game. That was my I was still in high school too because I played against that team that I played against the '97 team in a jamboree where they beat us 21-0 in a quarter. They like it was it was at Ed White. That was like preseason jamboree, and I mean they beat the living dog out of us. And so I knew how good they were, and so that was in Gainesville, and obviously us being Gator fans and always going to Gator games, so we were like that's an easy drive. So me and my dad went down to that state championship against Belglade, and that thing was, you talk about littered with talent. Brad Banks, that was the
Yep,
quarterback for he went on to Iowa and was in the
yep.
Heisman
Heisman
Trophy.
runner up. Heisman runner
Exactly.
up.
So Brad Banks was a beast, man. That Belglade team was awesome, but Mac Frazier, Lido, Jabbar, Maurice Harris was a monster in that game. He had like I think the receiving record for a long time. But yeah, that Curtis Lee was the running back at Raines. Like they had dudes on defense. That was a heck of a ball game. Um, that was obviously that was just an easy drive. It was way easier for us to be able to go to Gainesville, Orlando. It
Hmm.
sucks this thing's going to be down in the 305 with all those
I
Miami
know.
fans. There's already been a lot of back and forth on social media with Duval Dade, talking trash, making videos. So it's been a lot of chatter. So there's a lot of hype being built up for this thing. So it's gonna be big time Saturday night.
Yeah, I think so. Looking forward to going down there. Alessandra and I are heading down for a quick trip for the Raines game, and then heading back up to the Jags game on Sunday. But a couple others from last week. St. Augustine lost to Plantation American Heritage 38-28 in the Class 4A state semifinal. No shame in that. Heritage is a monster. They're playing for a championship. You knew that was going to happen. I mean, you see the Cocoa Newberry in the regional final a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago.
yeah,
Whew.
exactly. Yeah, 42-3 or something like that.
Yeah, Coco's a
Yeah,
different beast. That's in the 2A classification. So
yeah,
yeah, Cocoa is just a monster, and that's the type of team that American Heritage is. Chaminade beat Trinity Christian 35 to 6. Trinity scored in a running clock as it ran out. The knew that was going to happen. I thought it would be even a
yeah,
little bit worse than that, but Trinity banged with them
yeah,
for a little bit, and Chaminade won the state championship actually last night against Clearwater Central 42-7. So Trinity put up a little bit better fight than CCC did in that 1A championship game. But I mean, Chaminade again. I think Chaminade could beat probably any team in the state, even though it did lose to a team in the state this year. But Dang, I can't
Yeah.
believe we're down to the final day of the high school football season. Splendid. It's
Yeah.
flown by. 2024 in the books. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's your quick pick for player of the year?
Player of the year in Duval. I mean, it'd be hard not to say, not to give it to like TJ Cole, man. Like,
Yeah, I'm
he's
leaning there
I
too.
just just off the rip, you just asked me that. I mean, because especially if he orchestrates, a state title, you usually when you give these awards, you give it to like the team, the best player on the team or the quarterback on the team that leads their team to the playoffs or the national championship or the Heisman guys. They're all contenders. We definitely have had some good players. Obviously we thought Mandarin's season was going to go a lot different to where we could have been like, okay, we're talking Trammell and Jamie, this week playing in a state championship. And, that didn't happen because of the injuries and whatnot. And then really when you think about the other quarterback that's always been in the case has been Lachlan, and those guys went down last week. So then you're talking like, okay, just a stat guy. So Nice, they had a big run going with some of their guys. They obviously you can't give it to any of those guys when they lose, in the second round, first round of the playoffs. So yeah, I guess I would go TJ Cole right now, just on the sheer fact that he's got big time numbers, and
Yeah,
basically he's leading his team to Raines and the guys to a possible another state title.
yeah. 43 touchdown passes, a number that ranks third all time in area history, only behind DeAndre Johnson in his 2014 season when he won Mr. Football and wrapped up an iconic career. Tim Tebow had 46 touchdown passes his junior year, and then we've got TJ Cole, who's thrown 43. He had 4 touchdown passes in the state semifinal, so he is on the short list, I think, for offensive player of the year. We can talk about
Yeah,
defensive
yeah,
player of the year
right.
next week, but so I think a split decision coin flip game for me. Looking forward to going down covering it, and Sponge, you and I can talk next week
Yeah,
about the season it was, and man, what we're looking forward to next year. Maybe give out some superlatives and talk about
yeah,
top players and top offensive players, top defensive players, coach, team, program, all of that stuff. So for a state championship week edition of the Varsity Forward podcast, Justin, Barney, Sponge Franklin, thanks for listening.